A baby begins to make noise. His mother moves before it becomes a cry. Not because she knows a predator is watching, because she cannot afford to be wrong. Modern science suggests prehistoric mothers relied on several practical survival behaviors to keep infants as quiet as possible. The first began before anyone heard a sound. Number 5. She read the silence before it broke. The wolf never saw the baby. The mother intended to keep it that way. She was searching for edible roots while the rest of the group watched the surrounding landscape. The child resting against her chest suddenly became restless. Its fingers tightened, its breathing changed, its head turned sharply. No crying yet, no loud sound, just tiny signals that experience had taught her to notice. She did not wait. She shifted the baby higher against her body. She adjusted the hide wrapped around the infant. She gently changed her pace. When that wasn't enough, she offered the breast. Everything happened before the first cry had the chance to escape. To another adult, it might have looked ordinary. To the mother, it was one of the most important decisions she could make. Every child behaved differently, but after raising infants through changing seasons, mothers likely learned that loud crying rarely appeared without warning. Tiny movements came first, small changes in breathing, restlessness, a tightening face. Those quiet signals often arrived before the camp heard anything. Today, developmental researchers describe these as early distress cues. Modern studies show that responding during this stage is usually easier than waiting until distress becomes intense. Prehistoric mothers never used those scientific words. They simply remembered what experience had already taught them. Waiting usually made the problem harder. Responding early often made it smaller. That mattered because crying created more than noise. It interrupted everything. The mother stopped gathering food. The group's movement slowed. Attention shifted from watching the landscape to calming the child. In a dangerous environment, every distraction carried a cost. No one can say an Ice Age predator would have appeared because one baby cried. The archaeological evidence does not support such certainty, but people living beside wolves, cave lions, giant hyenas, and bears had every reason to avoid unnecessary risks whenever they could. Reducing a long crying episode became one more practical decision that improved the group's ability to keep moving, keep watching, and keep surviving. Modern science explains why this approach often worked. During the earliest stage of discomfort, an infant's stress response is still relatively limited. As distress grows, calming the baby usually becomes more difficult. Recognizing the warning signs early often shortens both the duration and intensity of crying. That small advantage may not seem dramatic, but human evolution rarely depended on dramatic advantages. It depended on countless small decisions repeated over thousands of generations. A mother who noticed the first signs of distress a little sooner, a baby who settled a little faster, a family that spent less time distracted. Tiny improvements repeated again and again. Even today, many experienced parents instinctively respond before a baby cries loudly. They cannot always explain how they knew. They simply sensed that something had changed. Perhaps that instinct is far older than civilization itself. Recognizing the first signs of noise solved one problem. The next was even harder. A prehistoric mother could not spend the entire day standing still with a child in her arms. She still had to travel. She still had to gather food. And wherever survival took her, the baby had to go too. Number 4. She never let the baby leave her arms. Mourning offered no safety, it only brought new work. Food had to be gathered before other animals reached it, fresh water had to be found, firewood had to be collected before darkness returned. Every journey forced the group farther from the protection of last night's camp. For a mother carrying a newborn, leaving the baby behind was never an option, but putting the baby down was dangerous too. If the child lay several steps away, those few seconds could become the difference between preventing a cry and reacting to one. So the safest place remained exactly where the mother could reach without thinking, against her body. While she searched for roots, the baby stayed against her chest. While she crossed rocky ground, the baby stayed against her back. While she climbed a slope, the baby moved with every step she took. The child never needed to call for her. She was already there. Constant contact allowed the mother to notice changes almost immediately. A slight twist of the body, a sudden stretch, a change in breathing. The baby did not have to announce discomfort, she could feel it. That gave her something incredibly valuable: time. Not much, sometimes only a few seconds. But those few seconds often meant the difference between a quiet adjustment and a long struggle to calm an upset infant. Imagine stopping to collect edible plants. One hand reaches toward the ground, the other steadies the baby against your body. Before the child becomes restless, you shift your weight, you tighten the sling, you gently bounce with each movement. The baby settles, your work continues. Nothing dramatic happens. That was exactly the point. The best survival decisions were often the ones no one noticed. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer communities repeatedly observe infants spending much of the day in close physical contact with caregivers. Rather than remaining in one place, babies move through the landscape with the adults who care for them. This pattern allows feeding, comfort, and protection to happen almost continuously instead of waiting until distress becomes obvious. Modern medicine helps explain why. Close physical contact supports temperature regulation, helps stabilize breathing, reduces stress, and allows caregivers to recognize discomfort much earlier than if the child were lying several feet away. Prehistoric mothers understood none of the biology. They understood the outcome. Keeping the baby close usually made the day easier, not easier because the child never cried, easier because small problems rarely had time to become large ones. It also solved another survival problem. Danger rarely announced itself. A startled herd, fresh predator tracks, the warning call of another group member. Any of these could force everyone to move immediately. A mother carrying her child was already prepared. There was no desperate search, no precious seconds lost lifting a frightened infant from the ground. Both could move together the instant the group decided to leave. Some researchers believe early humans likely used simple slings or wraps made from animal hides or woven plant fibers. The exact materials almost certainly varied across regions and time periods. The principle did not. Keep the child close, stay ready to move, stay ready to respond. Perhaps that is why human babies today still calm so quickly when they are held close to another heartbeat. What comforts a modern infant may once have helped an Ice Age family remain just a little safer. But eventually every group faced another challenge. The distance ahead was too great to stand still. The journey had to continue, and the mother discovered that movement itself could become one more tool for keeping her baby quiet. Number 3. She turned every journey into a lullaby. Stopping was not always an option. Some days the herd kept moving, some days the water was miles away, some days the safest place to sleep lay beyond the next ridge. The group had only one choice: keep walking. For a mother carrying an infant, that created another problem. The child did not care how far the journey was, it only knew whether it felt safe. If discomfort grew while the group crossed an open valley, there was nowhere to stop for long. The mother had to calm the baby without slowing everyone else. So she used the journey itself. Every step created a gentle rhythm. Every change in pace became another reassuring movement. The baby rose, fell, rose again. The same motion repeated hundreds of times each hour. To the adults, it was simply walking. To the infant, it felt familiar. Long before birth, every movement made by the mother had rocked the baby inside the womb. Walking, climbing, turning, even gathering food created a constant rhythm. Birth ended that world. Carrying recreated part of it. Prehistoric mothers could never have explained the biology. They simply noticed the result. A restless baby often became quieter once they started moving. So they kept walking. Not because movement solved every problem, because it solved enough of them. Imagine crossing a narrow game trail. Fresh wolf tracks cut through the mud. The hunters slow their pace to study them. Everyone becomes quieter. The mother feels the baby beginning to tense. She does not stop. She changes the rhythm of her steps. The child settles again. The group continues forward. No one speaks. Nothing dramatic happens. Once again, that is exactly what success looked like. Modern researchers have repeatedly observed what is sometimes called the transport response. Infants carried by a walking caregiver often become calmer within a surprisingly short time. Heart rate slows, body movement decreases, breathing becomes more regular. Scientists believe the vestibular system plays an important role by helping the infant process predictable movement. Prehistoric mothers never knew the mechanism, they trusted the pattern. If walking helped yesterday, it would probably help today. That knowledge spread without books, without language describing neuroscience, without anyone measuring heart rate or stress hormones. Only through observation, generation after generation, mother after mother, one successful journey at a time. Walking also offered another advantage. If danger appeared suddenly, the family was already moving. No one needed to gather sleeping children. No one needed to lift a frightened infant from the ground. The mother was already prepared, her child was already protected. Silence did not come from standing still. Sometimes silence traveled with the group. But no journey lasted forever. Eventually the sun disappeared. The fire was lit, and the most dangerous hours of the day quietly returned. Number 2, darkness changed the rules. Every evening ended the same way, the light disappeared. The world did not become quieter, only harder to understand. Beyond the edge of the fire, movement vanished into darkness. Sounds became difficult to judge. A snapping branch, a distant growl, the call of a night bird. No one could immediately tell which noises mattered and which did not. For a mother carrying a newborn, the night created an entirely different challenge. During the day, she could distract the baby with movement. She could change direction, point towards something interesting, or simply keep walking. After sunset, almost all of those options disappeared. Now the group needed rest, the fire needed tending, hunters needed sleep before daylight returned. The fewer unnecessary interruptions, the better prepared everyone would be the next morning. That made silence valuable in a completely different way. Not because every sound guaranteed danger, but because every unnecessary disturbance weakened the people trying to survive until sunrise. Imagine the fire burning lower, several hunters are asleep, another quietly feeds the flames. Somewhere beyond the darkness, something howls. No one panics, no one rushes toward the sound. The group simply listens. The mother feels her baby beginning to stir. She reacts before the restlessness grows. She pulls the child closer, adjusts the blanket of hides, offers the breast, waits. The baby settles, the camp remains calm. Nothing more happens. Again, that ordinary moment may have been one of the most important victories of the night. Archaeology cannot show us how often Ice Age babies cried after sunset, but anthropology offers valuable clues. Across many hunter-gatherer societies, infants sleep extremely close to their caregivers, often close enough for the smallest movement to be noticed almost immediately. Modern developmental science helps explain why. Babies rarely wake into full distress without passing through quieter stages first. Caregivers who respond during those early moments often prevent prolonged crying altogether. For prehistoric mothers, responding quickly also protected something every family desperately needed: sleep. A tired hunter reacted more slowly. A tired gatherer made poorer decisions. A tired mother noticed fewer warning signs. Protecting the night's rest protected tomorrow's chances of survival. Darkness changed the rules, the mother changed with it. She learned that sometimes the most important sound in the camp was the one that never happened, but even the most capable mother could not remain awake every hour of every night. Human survival depended on something even greater than maternal instinct. It depended on other people. Number 1, silence was never one mother's responsibility. No prehistoric mother survived alone, neither did her child. That is one of the clearest lessons anthropology has revealed about our species. Human babies remain dependent longer than the young of almost any other mammal. They need protection, food, warmth, comfort, and constant attention. One exhausted adult could never provide all of those things every hour of every day, while also gathering food, collecting fuel, making tools, watching for danger, and traveling with the group. So humans solved the problem together. Imagine dawn arriving after a long night. The mother has barely slept. Her baby finally rests peacefully against her shoulder. Another woman quietly offers to carry the child while she drinks water. An older sibling keeps watch nearby. A grandmother gently rocks the baby while hunters prepare to leave camp. Nothing about this scene appears dramatic, yet without moments like these, human childhood would have looked very different. Anthropologists call this system cooperative breeding. It describes a strategy in which fathers, grandparents, siblings, and other trusted members of the group all contribute to raising children. For prehistoric families, this shared responsibility created something more valuable than convenience. It created resilience. When one caregiver became exhausted, another stepped in. When the mother needed both hands free, someone else could hold the child. When the group had to move quickly, no infant was left without protection. Modern research suggests this cooperative approach is deeply rooted in human evolution. It helps explain why human children form strong attachments to multiple familiar caregivers rather than to only one person. The goal was never simply to comfort a baby. It was to keep the entire group functioning. One quiet child meant a mother could think clearly. A rested mother meant better decisions. Better decisions improved everyone's chances of surviving another season. Perhaps that is why one of humanity's greatest survival tools was never a sharper spear or a larger fire. It was the willingness to share the burden of protecting the smallest life in the camp. The evidence left behind. Archaeology cannot preserve every sound an Ice Age infant ever made, but evidence from anthropology, developmental science, evolutionary biology, and studies of hunter-gatherer societies points toward the same conclusion. Human infants evolved expecting close physical contact, rapid caregiver responses, frequent carrying, and support from more than one adult. Long before science explained why these behaviors worked, prehistoric mothers were already relying on them to improve their family's chances of survival. Sometimes, surviving the Ice Age wasn't about defeating the predator, it was about making sure the predator never knew your child was there.